Hi, who are you, where are you, and how do you attempt to make a living on the edge?
Hi, I'm Alison Smith. I run Pesky People, www.peskypeople.co.uk. Um, and it's really started off as a blog to really, in a way, rant about disability access from a digital point of view because it was being completely ignored. And Digital Britain report mentions the word access in terms of getting people online, but absolutely nothing about the fact that 99% of websites are inaccessible. And as we're now moving into like continual stream of video and pictures and websites streaming events live and what have you, it's becoming even more inaccessible. So I suppose what we're doing is really trying to keep the issue up there, and at the same time the peskiness of it is really challenging companies to get things right by blogging in and sort of naming and shaming them. And what I started doing was phoning them up, phoning the PR department up and saying, by the way, there's this blog post about your company and this is how bad it is and what you're going to do about it. So, for example, BBC, Doctor Who Experience, a visually impaired woman went down to the Doctor Who Experience in London, told them she was blind, got handed an iTouch with subtitles on it. She's standing there with a white stick, and they asked for a driving license, and it sort of went worse from there. So I just saw a few tweets about what she was saying on Twitter and then contacted her. And she did this fantastic blog post about what went wrong, but also what they needed to do to make it right. So I thought, hang on, I need to tell the BBC this is really important. There's a lot of Doctor Who fans, and she was a big fan. And I thought, well, there's got to be a way of sorting this out. So three phone calls later, I'm talking to the head of BBC Worldwide Branding, and to be honest, he found brilliant. I emailed him the blog, and within 3 days got a really, really good response. And then they've sorted out their access. I'd invited Samantha, who's Delicate on Twitter, back to see what they've done and really give a brilliant experience of being there, which is the way it should have been in the first place. And so the whole thing with Pesky People is really to flag up issues, and it started for me personally. Um, my first blog post was about being sold a mobile phone from Orange, and I called it "The Future Is Not Orange," and it wasn't. um, but the worst thing was I got a mobile phone that didn't work, my hearing aids on my Mac, and then every time I went back into the shop, like 4 times within 3 days, I was getting worse and worse customer service, and to the point where I was surrounded by four members of staff screaming at me and basically having to go at me when I was trying to say, I've got a put code, we will cancel this contract, we will, it was a 2-year contract. And I was basically refused. So the blog post then got picked up by Radio Shropshire, and I became the main news item at 12 noon on the radio. And that really got things sorted out. So it's only really made me realise, hang on, blogging, social media can really have an impact. And it sort of snowballed from there to the point where taking on issues like Samantha's and giving other disabled people a platform to blog about issues means that we find a way of sorting them out. So it's like there's an economic sense to it as well. Like we're worth £80 billion a year, yet we get treated really shoddily um, by businesses and websites that are inaccessible. So I'm a sort of pain in the backside to the issues and going, well, I can't access any of the online streaming of events and webinars because they're not subtitled. Without my hearing aids, I am profoundly deaf. So I have to find ways of accessing this information, whether it's via Twitter or reading lots of text. I'm also dyslexic, so that goes me a bit further. And the whole thing around pesky people and how it makes a living, in a sense, at the moment it doesn't, but I have had funding to sort of take the whole access digital issues and take it beyond the stage where instead of trying to search all the time for access information about various places, with GoGenie, we're trying to find a way of getting it all on one page and one place. So you just link and pass it on, whether it's on your mobile or whether you're looking at it online, and try and crowdsource that info. So I'm trying to really keep disability, digital and disability, really connected and find ways of using the technology to move forward. So, and the way I've been employed is through getting the funding to do this project. But it's been really hard. And all what I do in terms of blogging is pesky people, I do off my own back, voluntarily. And it's, people have this big perception that because it's disability, we are quite happy to give you all our advice and knowledge for free.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, it really pisses me off that we're treated like this. So I'm challenging like the Arts Council, Nesta, who give me the funding to build a prototype for GoGenie, and Technology Strategy Board to say, why isn't your content accessible? Why aren't you putting in guidelines to make sure that anything that's built has that audience? I mean, 20% of any population is disabled. 1 in 3 people know somebody who's disabled. 10% of the UK population is carers, and it's a really huge amount of people, and yet we're going to get locked out of everything to do with digital technology, the new products that are coming online. I mean, even as basic as watching BBC iPlayer or ITV iPlayer, the subtitles for me are never working right. I stopped watching The Voice because the subtitles were about 10 minutes behind everything that was always this continually message coming up saying that the subtitles would appear again in 52 seconds, which seemed to coincide whenever anybody was singing. So it really ruins the viewing experience, but it really makes you think, well, they don't care about us, because otherwise if they did, they would get it right. And they would think about access at the very beginning. I mean, even the space arts program, I had a Skype conversation with them, and they were like, "Oh, we've got a very limited budget into the developers." And I said, "Well, what are the BBC and Arts Council doing to ensure that you have a standard to meet to?" So, in a way, a lot of what I'm doing is campaigning, but what I'm trying to do in a very practical way is get things to happen. And that's been the big challenge, as well as actually earning an income from it. And I started pissing people off because I was applying for jobs, getting shortlisted and not getting them. And I thought, well, I can't find work, but I'm going to have to find a way of getting me work. And my background's in disability arts, and I've done everything from being artist producer, Dad Artist in Liverpool, 2008, City of Culture, where we shut off 4 roads. So I was site manager as well, dealing with all that sort of side of things in the council and health and safety, as well as the producing side. And my whole background is in working in mainly disability arts organisations, particularly in community engagement. So everything from running a national programme of creative writing workshops and performances in Scotland, England and Wales for survivors' poetry, to trying to set up a disability arts forum in Northumberland, to being a programme manager for contemporary art producers, where I went from being in an organisation where we would have an annual budget of, say, 60,000 to an organisation where each project budget was about 50,000. And, that was a real eye-opener, because it made me realise, hang on, there's a lot of money getting put into contemporary arts, but yeah, if you're in disability or anything to do with social exclusion, we're not seen as important. And that was quite an eye-opener. With pesky people, I've gone from doing a blog that then was very personal and putting myself very, very open to being criticised, which I have been quite directly, that I was jeopardising an arts organisation's funding for raising access issues. And all I was trying to do was say, well, why was the Home of Metal exhibition not displaying the access information for all the venues, and they were expecting me to go, or anybody to go to 13 different websites to find that info. And all they needed to do was create one page on their website to be at Hello Digital, where the organisation's got a good sign language interpreters, so I couldn't access any of that day's events. Then the interpreter turned up at 1:30. And it's just, if I want to go to an event, I have to negotiate with these organisers whether or not they're going to provide my access.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to an event, you just book, turn up, get a cup of tea, and you're in.
Yeah.
I have to wait until the last minute to know whether I've got a place because they've sorted out the access. Then I've got to scramble around to sort out my accommodation and travel. And there's only 200 interpreters for the UK. There's 70,000 deaf people. Yes, that was the first language. I use it as a second language because I was born hard of hearing and then became more deaf as I went into my 20s. My hearing loss in my left ear went right down to match my right ear. And that makes it difficult about going to events, but actually getting people to understand that you're actually quite good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Why shouldn't I be given the same level of respect as a consultant? I mean, I even had an organisation trying to say that because of length of time in the project, that why don't I just not claim the last quarter of the money that they owed me? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard enough earning a living. It is bad at the moment, and quite frankly, I am really worried. The amount of times I've been this close to giving up, even recently, is, you know, it's really, really hard. I'm the pesky people. It's me. I got great funding from Arts Council, Nesta, and even Nokia. So within just over a year and a half, I had 25,000 from Arts Council, followed by 20,000 from Nesta, followed by 25,000 from Nokia. Most of that money's gone into development costs,
Mm-hmm.
so it's expensive. But the support and infrastructure to help me do this and become an organisation has been really, really hard to get. It's still over me. People obviously don't want to get involved because they need to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I take something that has the potential to be absolutely massive with Houdini and the whole thing around it becoming almost like a disabled version of Get Satisfaction? It's got huge potential, and yet I can't get the infrastructure in place to help make that happen quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Like Houdini ideas are getting taken by other people. There's accessible apps out there that good on them, but you know, I know what we're doing with the crowdsourcing is going to go a lot further because of the flexibility and agility of it. And it's been really, really hard to be just one person driving this, you know, and I have been getting burnt out. And if you look at what policymakers should be doing, it should be a holistic approach to, if you're going to fund something, an idea or a prototype, fund around it, not just the build. And that way, you know, it's the expertise about everything from intellectual property rights to trademarking, you know, things that I can't afford to do.
Mm-hmm.
To the whole sort of business infrastructure, being primed to be able to pitch at events and being able to sort of go to the right funders and investors. And yeah, we're all in the same, from me doing pesky people and from a disability point of view, I'm at a complete disadvantage because none of the TS information is accessible for me to work out what I'm supposed to do to apply for funding. You have to jump through so many hoops just to get registered, and then by the time you've done that, you miss the deadline. And the sort of lack of building in the criteria that legislation is involved so that accessibility is taken into its heart. So it's a real combination of things for me. It's about if I'm rescue people and people go, yeah, it's great what you do, really love what you do, and we think it's really important, then why aren't I getting more support?
Yeah.
More support through mentoring, one of my own mentors. So, right in the early days of setting up rescue people, Nick first became my mentor, gave me some really invaluable advice. I then got mentor support via unlimited funding, which was only 4,500. That actually included £1,000 access costs, and that helped me revamp Pesky People website, make it really accessible. The, that funding was in 2010, and they're still giving me mentoring support today, and that's a huge difference. But I'm not getting it from anywhere else. So I'm I'm an active entrepreneur. I can fundraise and do stuff for everybody else, but if you're trying to say like, okay, I need to do this for myself, that's really hard when I'm trying to keep a bell going so that so GoToWe really happens. Find a way of the networking and crowdsourcing element of it. Finding new investment and fundraising opportunities. Trying to network at events and really get known so people can connect up with me, and then I find new avenues of new doors that open as one closes. You know, all those sort of things take time and effort, and that's a team.
Mm-hmm.
One person.
Yeah. Have you were talking about crowdsourcing? Have you looked at crowdfunding?
I need to do that. I think part of my problem has been with my dyslexia. You know, when you've got everything's up here,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to get it down into a structural order on paper.
Yeah.
I just really need to get that done. But yes, I need to do crowdfunding. And I suppose a big question for me is, I've been trying to find an answer to is, let's say we need X amount of money, what's that giving me ton? You know, and it's trying to find, who do I get that advice from, and
Mm-hmm.
or do I just do it and just take the risk and see what happens? Yeah, I need to really look into that. And that's the other thing, is that you're coming across the opportunities just by accident. And then on the other hand, you're sort of missing them because there's so much going on. I mean, I've missed applying for funding opportunities because things have just been so busy, and then I forgot about the deadline. You know.
What's the effect of the cuts in the UK? The cuts on disability. How bad is that? How is that affecting the community?
Um, the reform of the welfare rights bill reforms, and particularly in terms of taking a huge number of disabled people off and saying that we're eligible for work. One, there's no jobs out there. Two, employers won't employ a disabled person. They just see us as too much hard work. And they don't perceive that we can actually do the job, when statistically and research has proven that we'll work 5 times harder than anybody else. Never mind the fact that you've got all the disability access to comprehend with. The welfare cuts are scaring people because it's not just about cutting the money; it's the whole attitude and the way the scaremongering in the press. I think attitudes have been shoved back 40 odd years. I mean, I know when I was a kid, anything around disability was like, you know, you were over there in a corner in an institution. And I mean, I even remember my dad trying to get me support and saying, it means you will be classed as being disabled. What do you think of that? And I was like 9 at the time. And I said, I was trying because I didn't understand what the big deal was. And yet now it's like, well, I'm just, you know, they're challenging what's coming out of government. You know, the stats are that there's this big, huge fraud. It's like less than 0.05%, and yet they want to get 20% of disabled people off disability living allowance. And as a deaf person, looking at their new criteria, I won't get disability living allowance. And when I did get it before, it took me 5 years to get it, 5 years of appeal. So a bit trying to say that these benefits are really easy to get. That's rubbish. But that's what's going into the papers, and that's what people are reading, and that's what they're believing. So for me, being a disabled person and being very public about being disabled and deaf, I also have hidden disabilities. I'm not just deaf. I mean that in a nice way. That there needs to be a way of balancing, and all they're doing is seeing it as easy targets. It's cutting education, it's going to cut supporting the communities, it's going to cut organisations that are supporting disabled people. And it's like, what do they want us to do? Get back in the workhouses? I mean, that's what a lot of us are thinking, that we're not seen as valuable enough to be contributing to society, especially if people are on benefits.
Is the internet has there been a change in any way? Is it a way out? Could it be a way out for disabled people, depending on the disability, of course?
What, in terms of the way you're using the internet?
Yeah, I mean, if you, as you say, you began Pesky People as a blog, and then you saw that you could make it bigger, and you're seeing that you can hopefully make a living out of that. Is internet access, is social networking, are those things of any use? Is there a future there, or are they just more obstacles?
A combination. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing with Pesky People if it wasn't for Twitter, for example. That got me my connections and networks, and ironically, in the early days, it was mostly the people who weren't disabled, but who really wanted to understand the issues and also wanted to support the issues. And that was really invaluable about getting me known. And to the point where, I mean, a brilliant example is the National Digital Inclusion Conference, which is happening at the end of the month. When I contacted them and said I wanted to attend, they weren't going to. I got an email back 2 weeks before the conference eventually, they replied, even though I replied before Christmas, and then eventually got back about March, that they weren't going to book BSO interpreters because their deaf access was restricted to reduction and plan typists. So I got on Twitter and just said, National Digital Inclusion Conference is not acceptable. It doesn't include deaf people. And getting that brought it to the attention of the funders, it brought it to the attention to other people who were going, and there was an outrage about it. I wasn't just thinking about me, I was thinking about anybody else wanting it, not just always been about me. And they had to backtrack, and they had to get booked interpreters at very, very short notice, which fortunately they did. And when I got there the first morning, it was like, why aren't you're streaming live? Why don't you stream it live? You've got a plan typist there that can go straight onto the internet. You've got BSL interpreters there. You can screen, you can put them on the internet. And I'm glad they did take me up on that. So that 2010 conference is the first digital event that's been fully accessible in terms of online screening from a deaf point of view. Because audio description, that's another kettle of fish, or any video content, and whether it's audio described. And that was a real massive twist to us, because then it was like, hang on, it's as simple as just telling people about it very publicly. So rather than just being stuck at home and just complaining to friends, we've got a good platform to really get issues out there. But now the flip side of it is, because of all the welfare reform bill and all the issues around that, it's like, well, how do we get the issues out there and get it the attention it deserves without it being like, oh, here we go again? And that's a big challenge. I mean, all the stuff that's been going on around the Spartacus report has been fantastic. It's really proven how wrong the government's been on things and how their own research is they're hiding facts. But the flip side of it is the more that it's out there, it's like, well, are people just going to start switching off to the issues because they're just a bunch of benefit scroungers anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big thing with me from a policy point of view and the earning a living side, quite frankly, I'm not earning a living properly, and it's been very scary, and it's hard to find a way of trying to get it that big step forward. And I really do feel that a big perception of it is that people expect you to do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a great bit about social media is that we all help each other out, but we all need to be able to keep a roof over our heads. And I think that's something that future that the policymakers are going to have to challenge, because it's like, on one hand, yes, have open data, have all these different elements that are free online, but they have to be paid for, and people who are doing the work have to be paid. So there has to be a way of properly supporting projects and doing it holistically. So it's not just about do the build, it's about you're funding the infrastructure of the build, but you're also funding the infrastructure of the organisation or the people around it. And whether that also includes mentoring support, but like there's a proper foundation to, because otherwise things stop and people give up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've been that close so many times, even recently.
How important is your network then in that? Your network is mainly through Twitter, or it's from other areas?
It's mostly Facebook, well, Twitter, and more so now Facebook. Going to events. I mean, I was lucky in the early days of Pesky People. I got to go to so many digital events that really gave me the knowledge and understanding that I needed. And I mean, I see now when I look at arts organisations looking to do things in digital, and it's like they don't have that foundation. So for me, all my networks, it's a real mix. It's not just disabled people, it's also organisations, community groups and charities. It's a real mixed bunch. And what I love about using Twitter especially is that I can have direct contact with somebody quite senior in an organisation that you wouldn't have if you went through the usual channels. I went to FutureGov event, which was around the whole issues around the benefit system and how that could be improved. And the idea was there was a bit of a sort of hack that no coding was really done. It was really like, let's see what we can pull together. And met the guy responsible for introducing universal credit. And then I told him that, oh, by the way, I've been contacted by a deaf woman who's just had a benefits cut because she gets a letter telling her to phone you, your phone job centre, yet there is no Minicom number or email for her to be able to contact them. She's finally deaf for 2 kids. So he was like, oh, you know, he's saying, you know, we you know, you can contact your job centre in X, Y, and Y, Z, whatever. That doesn't happen. So, you know, being able to have that contact and email them direct and go, by the way, this has happened again. I've got no doubt that her benefits got reinstated so much quicker than it would have had if she'd have had to try and appeal because she was told, oh, well, you didn't come in. And it's like, well, I was ill and I can't contact you because you don't give me the best means of contacting me for my disability. And if they can't even get it right on that level, what hope have you got from governments going, right, all benefits applying, you'll be online, everything will be done online, but they've got no infrastructure in place to really take on the access issues at the same time. So when it's about the networks, I really love the fact that Twitter, especially for me, means I can have direct contact with people that I would never have been able to. And it's also very accessible because obviously from my dev point of view, I've got instant access and I'm on the same level as everybody else. That's what social media and the internet offers when it works and when it's accessible.
When you contact these people through Twitter or Facebook, people that you would never normally reach, do they respond to you?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, my golden rule is I treat people with respect. I don't think I've ever sworn on Twitter. If I find somebody offensive, I unfollow them. If I get things wrong, I apologise straight away. And I've had that happen a couple of times. Most people are very approachable, and I think it's because I'm raising issues, but I try to get a balance about how I'm contacting them. So I'm not just going, "You did this." It's like, you really need to sort this out. This is a big problem. So, some point today, I'm going to be on the warpath about the fact that Coldplay are performing for the end of the Paralympics, and a really big issue is that none of the online ticket providers like Ticketmaster or C-Tickets have a really easy way, if you're disabled, to book tickets. You have to phone them, or in the case of Coldplay at Arsenal Football Club, you have to wait 4 hours after the tickets are sold out to see the access information come up on Arsenal Football Club website. And then you have to download a form, fill it in, sign it and return it. You can't even book your tickets over the phone or by email. Everybody else has just clicked a couple of buttons and got them. And in the case of Dalekette, who's going to see them in London at the Emirates Stadium, they allocated her seat within the wheelchair accessible spaces. Bear in mind that she's partially sighted. She can't even see the stage, even with the equipment that she uses. So what she should have done, as she's told us and completely regretted, is paid double the price for a ticket, so not just paying for herself, but paying for a PA, so that she could be in the standing area at the front with everybody else. And they would not allow her to get tickets to that area. So Coldplay are really big supporters of disability issues. They've got a number of band members who are disabled, and it's like, well, they're really supporting and really raising the profile of disability access. They do a lot of gigs with Scope, and yet when it comes to going to their gigs, the infrastructure behind it, like the promoters and the stadiums and venues, are completely letting us down. You can't just physically book a ticket really easily like everybody else. So there is going to be a place for pesky people, because I'll see issues like that coming up, and I'm just sort of hoping that, well, hey, if we can flag it up and get things sorted, then it has a bigger impact all around. Like one called car insurance refusing to give a deaf woman car insurance, and after doing a blog post on pesky people, the publicity was enough for them to say, we'll give you the car insurance and we will make sure that there's you have a national system so that you can contact breakdown service using text message system. I mean, not difficult, but it'd be nice if we could get that funded and supported in some way, because it wouldn't just be one or two issues, it'd be quite a lot. And that's what sort of hope GoGenie will help do, because it won't just be about the access information all down on one page. It'll be about, here's what you can do to sort it out, report it, and it goes straight to them. And then if 30 people are complaining about the same issue, they realise, hang on, this is the problem. So if 30 people across 30 stores complaining about the fact that they can't find the wheelchair accessible changing room and it's being used as a storeroom, for example, as Next does, then it's a real issue that can then, it's like people power, so that whole crowdsourcing stuff comes into play again.
So GoGenie is an app you're building, or what is it exactly?
It's a website, mobile app, and on OS X and Android. and it's a downloadable app on the Symbian platform. And the whole thing is just around having all the shortcuts to access information. So you've got the access symbols, you've got the contact details, so you can email, go straight to their webpage with the access info, contact them on Facebook or Twitter, to looking at what it is like you're using OpenStreetMap. You can print it all off, you can add to it, you can say exactly what the access is like. So an organisation, a venue might say that their access is fantastic, and then when somebody gets there, the lift's broken and they can't get up to the first floor. So there's a way of saying, I've been here 10 times now and the lift's not worked once, for example. Or I go to see gigs at the Glee Club in Birmingham. I know to sit in the first 3 rows at the right, because the mic is always, the lead singer's mic's always in the same place, and I know where I can sit to that lead. So it's trying to sort of capture that information, but actually provide a really good way of knowing where you're going from an access point of view. But it sort of helps everybody, because it's not just about disability access, it's about, is it family friendly, it's a steps, it's a lift, can you, is a parking close by, it'll sort of answer all those things. And mostly use crowdsourcing as a way of getting the content in.
And how far developed is that?
It's up, it's live, it's a prototype, it works, it gives me grey hairs. It's working, and we're in the Race for Apps competition, and I've got no doubt that, competitions like that are important for raising profile and hopefully finding a way to get in some investment and further support. But the flip side of it for the moment is that we've run out of money, and because the funding's coming to an end, I've got no developer. It's just me, and trying to find another way of getting more resources in that can help make it really, really happen. So it's there, it's live, it works. You can even go onto the website on your laptop and just reduce the screen size, and it'll turn into the mobile version. So it's got some sort of nice features about it. It's just got so many great ideas about how it can be moved forward and how it can be used. And we're going to be hopefully working with OpenStreetMap, so they're going to start documenting access, come up with some sort of guidelines to how they can put access onto all their OpenStreetMap. So that's going to open a new door by getting all that information more widely available and how we can use it within GoGenie. So a lot to do, and just trying to get that next stage going and